Hello, inspiring educators. Adele Bates here, behaviour and education specialist, keynote speaker, and author of Miss I Don't Give a Shit, Engaging with Challenging Behaviour in Schools. So this vlog is looking at a topic around teenagers and discrimination. It's an area that I was invited to talk on recently on BBC Radio 4 as their expert. And of course, if you have taken part in the masterclass that I have, it's online and downloadable, Teenagers and Behaviour, then you will also know a bit about this as well. And in this vlog, I want to look at how the topic of teenagers and discrimination links back round and affects teenagers' behaviour in your classroom, in your school. How the effects of discrimination towards teenagers affects their learning, affects their capacity to create and build relationships with you. Now, of course, this is also all attached to whatever teenagers are going through, their brain development, their identity, who their core primary caregivers are. Like, there's so much in here, so I'm going to try and keep us honed in. So I want you to think back, way back, to pre-COVID times, where we would often see, and I think these are starting to come back anyway, signs on shops that would say things like, only 2 teenagers allowed at one time. Now, if you were to replace the word teenager with any other minority, only 2 gay people allowed in the shop at a time, only 2 black people allowed in the shop at the time, only 2 Jewish people allowed in the shop at the same time. If you were to replace it with any other minority group, that would be against the Equality Act 2010, and quite rightly so. Things would be done about that in the UK. And yet, teenagers are allowed to be discriminated against in this way, and it's perfectly legal. There is a fantastic book by Jay Griffiths called Kith, and she looks at the environment that we've now created in Western societies for our young people. So if kin is like your friendship and your group, kith is your environment that you are in. And she looks at just how hostile the environment, the places, the public places that we have become for our young people, and how that can be affecting them socially. So she goes on to describe that teenagers are the only group, young people, children, who can be dispersed by the police in a public place for doing no crime. And you've seen it yourself. There's some youths hanging outside the library and they're being a bit noisy. There's some hooded children in the museum swearing and they're asked to go out. Yeah. So you can start to see, just from these kind of things, what it might be like to be a teenager right now. You might be able to remember some of the stuff yourself. And I'm in a minority group myself. I'm bisexual, and I had a very interesting journey with experiencing what it's like to be in a minority and to be discriminated against as someone with a same-sex partner, because I was straight. Until I met my partner, I was straight. So I know what it's like to be in the world, in the majority, to feel welcomed and to feel wanted in spaces. But what I've also discovered since becoming a minority, only in that small way, I've also discovered what it's like. When people say welcome all, it doesn't necessarily mean me. It doesn't necessarily mean me and my partner. Let's go back to the teenagers. If I get on a train and I've got the wrong ticket, it happens. I'm getting better now. I have an assistant who sorts out my travel for me for this very reason. But I used to spend years with the wrong ticket going the wrong way, and it's the wrong day, and I'm on off-peak, and I'm supposed to be on super off-peak, and I don't know. Who knows, right? Not once did I have to sit and pay a fine for that. I am a white woman in England. I'm cisgendered, so I'm not trans. I identify with the sex I was born with. I'm educated. I'm of a certain income and class. And what that means is, when people see me and I say, oh gosh, I made a mistake, I'm so sorry, let me try and sort it out, I usually get away with it. Now, if I replace my role with that for teenagers, they are much less likely to get away with that kind of thing, because there is a prejudice there, because there's an unconscious bias that teenagers are out to try and, push the boundaries and to be rebellious. There are all sorts of stereotypes and biases that can come upon young people. There's an interesting story that I sometimes share. I was leading a training once around equality in young people. And this very brave participant shared a story with me, which is just incredible. She was walking down the street. The sun was just about to set, so that kind of dusk time. And coming towards her was a group of hooded teenagers. And also there was an intersectionality there. They were black teenagers, black boys. She was walking along. She was just about to cross the road because she was feeling intimidated. And just at that last second, she looked up and saw her son. It hits me in the heart, that story, because that just shows that our society's inbuilt stereotypes, biases, negativity, prejudices, all those kind of things are so strong that a mother would see those things just before she saw her own son. And of course, there's a whole racial element of there as well. She recognized in herself that she was feeling more fearful because these teenagers were black. She was black herself. So now let's go to the teenager in your classroom. This is the kind of world they live in. You don't hear headlines saying, teenager stacked the dishwasher for their parents and said hello to Doris, who's 86 on the corner every morning. You don't see those headlines. You see teenagers have wrecked this, gangs have done that, crime has done this. That's the kind of negative story that is being talked about this minority group. So then when you get to your teenagers in your classroom, I want you to imagine that they've just stepped in from this world in general of most people, generalization, blah, 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 but most people assuming negative things about them. Now, if we spent the morning, let's take this to a really precise example. If we've spent the morning, say we got on the bus, and maybe I'm a teenager, maybe I swore, maybe I dropped my pass and I swore, I dropped my phone, whatever. And the bus driver immediately was quite defensive about that, thinking, oh gosh, these teenagers are going to cause trouble. Okay, come on, no swearing on the bus, straight away. And I've had that negative experience. Maybe there was somebody who was sat with a bag on the chair next to them. You can tell I do a lot of public transport. Transporting. I know all these kind of things, but there's someone sat there with their bag on the other seat, and there's no other seat, and that person does not offer you that seat. Yeah, because you're a teenager, and why would you need it? And you're probably just going to make trouble anyway. By the time I get to school, by the time I get into the classroom, I am holding all this kind of story that the world discriminates against me. They might not be able to think of it in that, succinct, adult labeled way, but they've got this feeling that actually people don't really like me. That's the story I get. And so when I get an open door and I see my teacher, we've got to think, how is that going to affect my behaviour? And what can we do as the teacher, as the school leaders? How can we make our spaces welcoming to these young people and let them know that we do see them, we do see their potential? And yes, guess what? They might knock things over with their arms that they haven't quite probably grown into. They might be loud. They might do risk-taking behaviour. And we also see that these are the young people that are our next generation, whether we like it or not, and they have the potential to make positive social change. For me, this is the most exciting kind of alchemy part, that moment when I work with a young person and I mirror back to them the positive side of them that I want to nurture more and more. If you are interested in this and you want to know how to do this and how to do different strategies with them, then do grab that masterclass. I'll leave a link somewhere. And meanwhile, I would love you to just take away the idea. Next time you see a teenager out in the street, just watch. Just watch how the world treats them and see what you can learn. Thank you.